Hey guys, welcome back to Monetary Concepts. Today's video is going to be about a brief overview of the history of the monetary system in the US. Now, for any of the experts out there, I said brief. Okay, I'm not going to go into every single little detail. There's time for that in future videos. What my goal of this video is to give kind of the newcomers and the people that are just getting into this kind of a guideline as far as for when I'm talking about certain events in future videos. It'll give them a perspective on where we're at in that timeline. So let's jump right into this. Starting out 1776, we all know what that is, birth of the nation. At the time we were using the Spanish currency. 1792, Congress made the first US dollar. At this time we had the bimetal system, so gold and silver. Okay, nothing too crazy. Up in 1862 we had the greenbacks. Okay, so this was the first US based dollar currency, or sorry, paper currency. Obviously the Confederates had their own Confederate money, but we're just covering, mainstream. 1900, that is when we went off a bimetal system to gold standard. Okay, 1913 is important because that's when the Federal Reserve Act was created. And we will go into much deeper videos on the Federal Reserve. I just want to give you a timeline for when it was implemented. World War I was right in this same time frame, guys. And what you need to know about World War I as far as the monetary system of the US is this was a very critical time or growing time for the US. So the World War I was an extremely expensive war. I'm not going to get into too much history for now, but basically, you had days where you would lose 60,000 guys, 1 million casualties in 1 month. And what they did is they dug in trenches, each side dug in, and then they would just sit there and fire nonstop across these, battlefields. Whereas nowadays, you'll have you'll have an hour of fighting or, sustained fire, and then it'll relax off. It was just solid bombardment, so it was extremely expensive. When you think about constantly launching artillery, always laying down rounds, okay, it's very, very expensive. Now, prior to us entering the war, we were the only country that wasn't tangled up in this. Okay, not the only country, but you guys know what I mean. We're the country that all the resources were coming from, right? And what that meant is we also were getting a lot of the currency, or gold and silver, sent to us as payments for all these goods. So I'm not getting into the death toll count, but monetarily, World War I was a pretty big stepping stone for the US because we got a lot of Europe's gold and silver. At the time, London and stuff was kind of the financial banking center of the world, and we started accumulating stuff, in World War I. So it's a pretty important time. Okay, 1933, we're in the middle of the Great Depression, and we'll go into the cycles and stuff later on, guys. But just know that the Great Depression was a very long, extended monetary depression. 1933, we had FDR and his Great New Deal. He took us off, or sorry, he didn't take us off. He devalued the dollar. So prior to this, you could convert $20 approximately for 1 gold ounce, okay? In 1933, he said, hey guys, it's illegal to own gold as private property. But tell you what, turn in your gold, we'll give you the dollars, you're losing nothing, it's still being backed, don't worry, we got this. It's for the good of the country, we need, the gold, right? So all the citizens turn in their gold, or we're supposed to, they get their dollars, and then boom, he devalues it. He says, okay, and I don't remember the exact spec, but let's say $35 equals 1 ounce. So in a short time, people lost a lot of their purchasing power. And it was supposed to help. I would argue that it probably didn't, but anyhow, fast forward. World War II now. World War II is again significant because just like the prior World War, we were supplying Europe with all this, goods and services, food, war ammunition, metals, etc. And that really was kind of the nail in the coffin for most of Europe. World War I almost exhausted all their resources. World War II bankrupted them and stuff. Again, yes, we had a lot of casualties. We dumped a lot of money into it. But what it did is the world owed the U.S. a whole bunch of money. So in 1944, we had the Bretton Woods Conference, okay? And what happened there is all the who's who and whoville in the monetary system around the world got together, and they said, hey, basically, we're all broke. How do we rebuild the world after World War II? And there's tons of ideas thrown out, but there was ideas of, maybe we have a currency that's just country to country worldwide, and stuff. But the U.S. is the ones with holding all the leverage, because we had all the debt owed to us. So we had significant leverage. We basically said, hey, listen, what we'll do is we'll come up with the U.S. dollar will be the world's reserve currency. Okay, if you're not familiar with that term, basically what reserve currency means, as I understand it, is that all the transactions, or the majority of the transactions in country to country, okay, so let's say England wants to buy, lumber from Germany. They would, instead of using their currencies, they would use the U.S. dollar. Also during World War II, a lot of gold was shipped to the U.S. as a safe haven, because they didn't think the U.S. was going to enter the war. So like countries like Japan, they sent a bunch of gold over thinking, we'll keep it safe in America and stuff. So we made a deal with the world that, hey, guys, we'll hold all the gold, not all of it, the majority of the gold. We'll hold the majority of the gold, and don't worry about it. We'll always give you your 35-to-1 gold ratio, and at any time you want, you can just exchange your dollar bills for gold, right? You come to us, we'll give you the gold. No problems, no questions asked. Okay, well, fast forward, and we have a lot of turmoil about this time, and some countries start looking around and they're going, I'm pretty sure the U.S. doesn't have all the gold backing that they say they do. I think we want our gold back, because I don't trust that the U.S. is going to uphold their end of the bargain when all this comes apart. And so several countries said, hey, give us our gold. 1971, Richard Nixon says, okay, guys, yep, nope, we're not giving out any more gold. No, we're done with that program. We still got it. We got all the gold, but we're not giving it out. So sorry, tough luck. Right? And they raised a fuss, but there really wasn't much you could do about it. Now, as I understand, Nixon was intending on just revaluing it just like FDR did back here. Then you have the Watergate scandal and all that. He gets kicked out of office, and we just never went back to the gold standard. So there was no revaluation on the gold standard. We just completely went off of it. And when you go off of something like that, that's what you call a fiat currency, which basically means it's backed by no physical goods, or it's not pegged to some other currency. It's just based on the faith that it has value, and we'll get more into that later. Okay, so that's 1971. 2008, we had the markets crash and stuff, and we'd had other crashes, but the significant thing in 2008 was the whole monetary system was global, and It was all intertwined, and not even the people that were supposed to understand this, they didn't know how intertwined it was until it all came apart. So basically in a panic to save, to save the system that we had, the central banks started quantitative easing, which is aka throw a bunch of money into the markets and try and plug the leaks. And we've pretty much kept that up into where we're at right here in 2021. So guys, sorry, I know that was a little longer than I wanted it to be, but that's your brief overview of the U.S. history of money. We'll get into more details in future videos on certain aspects, but thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.